All right, so we're going to do an introduction here to the Tails system, and it is a live distribution for Tor. Basically, it's a way to boot this up off of a USB, have your computer without leaking any information on there. Now, I am going to set an admin password so we can try admin functions if we want to in this demo here. So we're going to double click that. We have to set a password. And nothing on this is persistent. The other thing we're going to do here is we'll leave the network connection is default. It by default wants to do Mac spoofing, but because I'm doing this demo in VirtualBox to make it easier for me to record, I do turn it off. As far as I know, most modern hardware on laptops, desktops supports Mac spoofing, and that's spoofing your MAC address, which is a uniquely assigned, so to speak, serial number of your network interface. They spoof it so it makes it harder to track when you connected to which networks. But as VirtualBox seems to have a problem with it, so we're going to go ahead and turn that off. And like I said, it's just for the demonstration purposes. You don't really have to do that. Also, the admin password can technically kind of make you less safe, because if you don't set an admin password, there's no admin functions available, so nothing can run it. When you set an admin password, you can run some of the admin functions, but you don't need to get started with Tails. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off and start it here. Now, it purposely doesn't save anything on the hard drive. So this is as I said, a live distro that you run, and I'm just running it off the ISO, but you can run this off of a USB, set up a boot of a USB, plug it into the computer, and it creates basically a clean environment for you to surf the web, and it directly connects to Tor. You're going to see a warning that'll pop up that'll tell me I'm in a VirtualBox, because it does like to warn you that VirtualBoxes can be compromised. So by running in a VirtualBox, you could be losing some of your anonymity. Basically, they're saying the host OS could have some security holes in it. Now Tor is ready and can access the internet. And at the top here, you can see the onion circuits that are built, and that it's connecting. It's going through here. It's going to takes a second to start building the circuits. And then you can see visibility into the detail of the circuit you're on. Now it comes prepackaged with the Tor browser, of course. We're going to open that up. And it defaults to the Tails page on there. Now they also have uBlock installed by default, your standard onion. It tells you the different IP addresses you're using and when you're using them. The script blocking is turned on there, and I like the way they call it. It's the Amnesia Incognito Live system, and Amnesia pretty much means that it is for complete anonymity, as in this system forgets everything. It wipes everything. So if I download, save files, do any of that, it's going to be wiped. Now your standard Tor system is still here, where you can rebuild different identities and rebuild the circuits on there. And it's running a flavor of Debian, so it's pretty cut down, pretty generic. They took out a lot of the extraneous stuff. They do have a few things in here. Bitcoin wallet, a onion share, obviously an secrets browser. They do have, and it'll give you a warning if you try to open this up, the unsafe browser, which will bypass the proxy. But everything on here by default has been redirected to work through the proxy. So you have under the system tools, power stats, configuring a persistent volume. What the Tails installer does will not install to a hard drive, but it will do is clone itself to another encrypted USB. So it'll wipe out and build you another USB stick. This also can be used for creating, they have an option to create a persistent volume, and I believe it creates one little folder so you can pull files back and forth in kind of a persistent state, but it doesn't save all the settings in there for it. Comes with Inkscape, GNU emulation program, so it's got GIMP in here, LibreOffice Draw, Scribus, scanning, your standard LibreOffice stack, some programming, math, kind of just real basic stuff here. I was kind of cool that they did include here under video, Eevee, I'm not sure you say it, but it's the video editing software which was included on here, which is kind of cool. So it's got basic video editing on here, and Audacity for audio editing, and track editing with a couple other tools like Traverso. So basically it's pretty straightforward. As soon as you're online, it's nice because there's not wondering, is this browser anonymous or am I hiding something? It right away is. So as soon as we start to open up something, duck. We don't have to think about going, okay, is this the anonymous browser or not? Because everything on here is anonymous. You know, if you open up the reader, if you open up iStuff for newsreader, Pinged Instant Messenger, any of these that you connect to right away are already all routed through the proxy. So instead of having to think about whether or not something you're opening up is routed through the proxy, they all are. Now, I like to take a look at what information is actually coming out of here, so I'm going to drag this over. So .198 is the IP address. And you can see the connections. It's invisible. You know, we're surfing the web on this. Let's pull up a couple websites where actually has some more data. So I have a couple websites open here. I opened up Google News, through open Reddit here, and then quickly just threw something in DuckDuckGo, and now we're going to look at the data analysis from my router. And nothing. The only thing we see is the one connection over here to Tor. So you can see the SSL traffic, the unknown traffic. It did, you know, request a DHCP, but there's really not much going on here. It's really hiding everything. Everything just is going to sq.ix.io, and that's it. So it's doing a good job of not leaking data. It's one of the problems you have sometimes is DNS leaking. What DNS leaking does is it is your system making DNS queries that kind of de-anonymize you, because they can track your IP address, track your MAC address, and go, okay, I see all these DNS queries, and you're using Tor. With this, you're seeing nothing but Tor, because from the get-go, as soon as it starts up, it doesn't do anything online. It just goes right in and starts going to Tor. So it hides all of your data. It encapsulates everything on there, and without worry about any leaks. Now, I imagine I can de-anonymize this. Maybe I'll do it at the end. I'll try it with opening up the insecure browser, which bypasses the proxy, and you'll see how much data starts flowing through here. But as of right now, you can see there's nothing to see. I mean, obviously, we do know that this particular session is using Tor, but that's it. So as far as functionality goes, it works like any other live OS. It's reasonably fast, you know, from when you're reading off of a thumb drive. In this case, I'm reading off an ISO and VirtualBox. I tried it off a thumb drive. Like I said, it's just harder to record it there, because there's not really any recording facility built into it for me to do that. It also doesn't make it easy to install software purposely. They lock this down pretty good for your own protection. All the other tools, some of the other ones that are in here is like the onion share, which I think this is kind of cool. So if you have a file, you can literally drag files here, and it will create a circuit just for that, so you can download out of the Tor browser. I'll show you how that works real quick. All right, we just quickly create a file called test.txt over here. And we put it in the documents folder. We drag it to here, and we hit start sharing. What it's going to do is create a Tor Onion service running on this session, so I can share this file. And as I understand, this is how some of the whistleblowers were sharing some of the data, is using some of the internal services like this. This is how you can get files to people over Tor anonymously and securely without leaking what you're doing. Now, of course, the tricky part is you have to get the files onto the computer from here, and perhaps like doing some encrypted volumes, because it does have encryption built in on this. I believe it has the your standard LVM encryption stack. I'll double check and look that up. All right, so right here we can copy the URL, paste the URL, and it's, you know, completely randomly generated. It's going to take a second. And this is what you can share that file, and it'll let them download it. Tells you what the contents of the file on there. It does automatically zip it for you, so then you can download the file, and it lets you know that there's downloads. Now, once it downloads, you notice that the sharing stopped. Once someone has that file, it drops it. You have to start up the sharing again. So I'll pull this back over again one more time. And still nothing. So we can see the duration to see the connection, but there's still no visibility. So that's the nice thing about running it completely off a live CD. There's no worries about you accidentally clicking the wrong thing and opening it up. Everything gets routed through this anonymously. But as far as Tails goes, it's really straightforward and simple. Being that it's a standard live CD, they have an error reporting system in here. Documentation's included. It's your standard LibreOffice. I don't need to go into details on that. I've tried this on a couple computers. They all started up fine. I mean, this is the beta version, but I haven't had any crashes on it. But the Tails OS is a pretty neat project. Not hard. I mean, it's literally like any other live CD ISO. Download and run. Go ahead and close that. And it looks like this may have locked up again. It's the only program I found that's been a little bit unstable. I think it just pauses a little bit too much. It's the windows won't refresh, and sometimes it locks up on me when it's doing this. But it's also right now pulling a lot of data through all the news feeds at that slow Tor speed. But so far, like I said, I really haven't found any problems with it. It works great. I actually find surfing with this on the same computer that I have just running the Tor browser bundle quite a bit faster. It seems to build the circuits really fast. Yeah, this has decided to quit again. Force quit. It seems to surf the web reasonably fast for being on the Tor browser. The connections build really quick. The boot up time is really, reasonable. And it's nice if you want to stay anonymous and be using Tor. I mean, this really gets you up and running quite quickly. You still have all the same warnings. Attempt to extract an HTML canvas metadata, so it still warns you about any of the other settings like the standard Tor browser bundle does. And nice thing is too, having the uBlock origin installed means right away ad blocking, so that's handy. So I don't have to deal with a lot of crap on there. But it works fine. I really, it's built on the standard Debian, like I said, so there's not much there. You got all of your standard network settings, wired settings. It does support Wi-Fi, so if you're connecting over Wi-Fi, it does that. And then, as most hardware, by default, it wants to spoof your MAC address and leave the admin turned off. You also can get, like I said, root terminal. They do have power stats if it's running on a laptop, so you can be energy efficient with it. And the nice thing is you don't really have to worry about wiping any browser history or anything at the end, because when this shuts down, I'll show you, at the end, it shuts down and wipes the memory. So real quick here, I'm going to try and de-anonymize it. So we're going to go ahead and close all the tabs on this. And I'll show you what happens when you start the insecure browser. So if we start an unsafe browser session, it makes us sure, do you want to start at networked activity when the unsafe is not anonymous? So it's going to give my normal IP address. Starting browser. And I like the way they do this too. They keep everything in red, and the first splash screen is warning the browser you're currently using is not anonymous. Like I said, they've gone through a lot of trouble, so you can open up any of the other network utilities. Anything you're doing is kept through the Tor network and kept anonymous with Tails. So everything's anonymous by default, and only through this can you force it to be not anonymous. So let's open up google.com, facebook.com, whoops. Twitter.com, and we'll go back to opening up Reddit.com. So now that we've done this, I'm going to drag over the network analysis, and now we can see that this is going to be full of data. So we went from this computer being anonymous online, this kind of shows a difference, to it being able to see all the different sites I connected to in just that few seconds. So it does a good job. I didn't see any DNS leaks. It does what it says it does. It starts up, only connects to Tor networks, and then routes all traffic through Tor from top to bottom. And like I said, I detected no leaks. I see nothing on my network when I was watching this. But this minute, of course, you open up the non-anonymous browser, this just goes nuts. It's just like everything else. And it's amazing how many different websites, just by connecting to those, look at how many websites that are now visible just from those couple connections. I open up just Google, Facebook, and that, and there's a plethora of data that is now being tracked on this. But it keeps it red, so you're doing it. You're so now. So now we're going to shut it down. We're going to close all tabs, and you'll watch it'll wipe the memory clean on shutdown. And that's it. Just a quick overview of Tails 3.0 beta. It seems pretty stable. I've surfed the web for a little while. Pretty slick system. It's nice. Like, no DNS leaks or any type of leakage detected. It just connects you right to the Tor network so you can get surfing and keep yourself anonymous. Thanks for watching. If you like the content here, like and subscribe. Thanks.